What is going on, guys? I'm Consumer Tech Review, and today I'm going to be comparing the Razer Basilisk V3 versus the Logitech G502. And at any point during the video, if you want to check out either of these gaming mice, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. I do got you guys, but let's jump into the video. All right, now let's start by comparing some of the basic stats. These sensors, obviously, the Razer has the Focus Plus sensor, while the Logitech has the Hero sensor. The Logitech hits 25,600 DPI, while the Basilisk hits 26,000 DPI. Now I think this is just to one up Logitech just a little bit. I did talk to Razer and they said, we love the G502, we think it's a great mouse, but the point of the Basilisk V3 is to just make it better in every way. And I think honestly, they did that, and let's go over the stats and kind of show you why. All right, now the Razer hits a max IPS speed of 650, while the Logitech only hits 400. That is a pretty big difference. The Basilisk has 50 Gs of acceleration, where the 502 only has 40. Now the Basilisk weighs 101 grams, while the Logitech weighs 121 grams, and that's without any of the weights that you can put in there to balance it. And I will say, the balance of the Razer is just much better than the G502. It's just better. It feels better in hand, and it's just balanced. It's easier to move around. But without any weights in the G502, it is 20 grams lighter, which is a big deal. All right, now both have a 1000 hertz polling rate, which is pretty standard. The Razer has 10 programmable buttons, and the Logitech has 11 programmable buttons. That is the only place where the Logitech, on paper, for the stats, the Logitech does better. That is the only stat that it does better, but we're actually gonna talk about the real life experience, not just the stats. We're gonna talk about the actual feeling of them, which is really important. The Basilisk has 5 onboard memory profiles, and the Logitech has 3. I don't see either of those to be an issue. I wouldn't be like, oh, I need 4, not 3, right? But they're just trying to one-up them, and if that's actually a thing for you guys, you know, go for the Razer. All right, but the cable, this is where these stats can't really show you the difference. The G502 does have a lighter, more bendable cable than typical mice. I wouldn't call it stiff, but it's still kind of like a mousy cable, where the Razer uses their SpeedFlex cable. It's kind of like, that's what they call it, it's marketing, but it is an ultralight cable. It's the same one that's on the Viper, an ultralight mouse, and this changes it a ton. This is not marketing, this is a huge difference. The G502 will definitely pull if you don't have something like a mouse bungee. It just pulls a little bit because it's a little bit of a heavier cable, whereas the Basilisk cable literally feels like it's a wireless mouse. It's so lightweight and so much better. And honestly, I think that was in my review of the G502, that was the thing that they should have done, like the biggest thing that they should have done different is given an ultralight cable. Honestly, at this point, every mouse should have an ultralight cable. So beyond the Razer actually being lighter, it feels lighter because there's no tension on the cable, where the G502 is heavier and it feels heavier because of that cable. All right, now the scroll wheel. This is actually a really big deal with both of these because they both have really cool, very customizable scroll wheels. Okay, so the Razer uses an electronically controlled freewheel or tactile scrolling, which means you press a button and the little thing inside of it switches it from freewheel or tactile. And the tactileness is very tactile, it's very precise and very accurate. Now on the G502, it's a manual press button, so you have to actually physically press it in for it to change from freewheel to a tactile scrolling. Now the tactile scrolling has longer, basically strides, I guess, in between it. You have to pull it more for the tactile clicks. Now, the problem with this is because the actual G502 has a metal scroll wheel, it's heavier, and every time you pull it back, the tactileness kind of moves. It's not as tactile, it's not as precise as I would like it, especially for a gaming mouse. Now, this would be fine for an office mouse, and it's actually fantastic for an office mouse because I've used it in that kind of thing, like when doing taxes, but in gaming, the Razer way more precise. But the other thing is the left-right tilting clicks. They both have it. On the Logitech, I think we all know they're mushy, no one uses them, they're not good, they're not tactile. They're even quite commonly hit by accident, which is really not cool. Now the Razer kind of upgraded that, and it actually still has the left and right click, which I honestly couldn't care less if it has it or not, but for those people that do like it, it's way more tactile, you're not gonna hit it by accident. It's a little bit harder to press it, but not in like a bad way. It's like I know what I'm doing, it clicks in and it comes back, where the Logitech was quite mushy. All right, but the reason that the electronic freewheel and tactile scrolling is important over the Logitech rather than it being a manual is that when you're actually doing stuff that's not gaming, when you're doing stuff like school or scrolling through something, you can actually flick the tactile mode when it's in a tactile mode, and it will switch right into freewheel. And then once you stop the mouse from spinning, it will go right back into a tactile mode. This is insanely helpful for doing stuff like, you know, productivity tasks, schoolwork, scrolling through things. Super helpful. Now this was on the Logitech MX Master and I think a few other mice, but it's really, really nice to have on this mouse because I'm sure a lot of you will be using it more than just for gaming. So basically overall, the Razer is better in everything other than Logitech having a metal one, but that adds weight. So if you're gonna be using this more for like office and school, you might want to pick the Logitech for just the mouse because it just feels a little bit nicer because you're touching metal. But yeah, overall, I would pick the Razer. All right, now I do wanna say I love the Logitech G502. I'm giving all of the praise to the Razer because it deserves the praise. I've been using these side by side for quite a while now, and it's just better. Like the Razer is just a better mouse in like every regard. Now, the reason that this is because Razer literally basically copied Logitech. Razer directly told me we love the Logitech, but we just wanted to make it better in every way, make it a little bit more customizable, and just people that are buying the G502 just should rather buy the V3. That was their point of making the V3, and they definitely succeeded with that. Okay, so let's talk about the build quality. While the actual Razer is lighter, the build quality is better, not only by the actual quality, but the design. On the G502, this design has been around for a long time. It looks like a nice mouse. Razer looks better, but the actual ergonomics of it on the G502, you have the nice section where your thumb goes on the left side, which feels really nice. It's bigger on the Razer and it's way more grippy because of the injection molded grippy parts on the left and right. Now, again, moving over to the right side of the mouse, on the Logitech, it slopes over. The entire right click is completely sloped. Whereas on the Razer, it's indented for your finger, which is way easier to grip it. Also, the Logitech just drops off more dramatically, where the Razer actually has more of a grip for your hand. Now, this makes it easier to move your mouse around. It makes it more comfortable over a long-term period of use. And honestly, I've used obviously the G502 for a very long time. I started using the Razer for a week, and then I moved to testing both of these together, and it was like a night and day difference. And it was very hard to go back to the G502, even though I've loved that mouse for a long time. All right, now let's talk about the RGB. Obviously, this is not a fair battle because Razer just added so much amazing RGB that just looks awesome. The color recreation, 11 different zones. It's all around it. It glows. It's super bright. Now, Logitech obviously just has the logo and the 3 DPI little indicators right there. The recreation, the color, the brightness is great on the Logitech. They just don't have the amount of RGB that Razer has. But yeah, the Razer mouse looks absolutely awesome. The Basilisk V3 did a perfect job with the RGB. All right, this next point is really important. The switches. The Razer is using their 2nd gen optical switches, which feel really nice, more tactile than their 1st generation optical switches, but way more tactile and better feeling than the Logitech. But the big deal is not actually the feeling. The big deal is that the G502 has had a history of having double clicking issues. Now, I've personally never had that before, but I've seen on Reddit that a lot of people have had that. I've had people comment on my G502 review in 2021, is it still worth it? And they actually commented that they had some double clicking issues. That could be a huge reason why you might not go for the G502 and might go for the Razer Basilisk V3, because the actual long-term reliability of an optical switch is gonna be way longer than a typical switch like on the G502. All right, now gliding. Which one glides better? Well, obviously the Razer glides better. It uses 100% PTFE feet, and it's balanced better, and has an ultralight cable. It's lighter, so yeah. The G502 doesn't really glide that well. It'll definitely glide if you shove it, but not like the Razer. It's just lighter. It has so much other stuff to make it glide a little bit better. I absolutely love the G502, and I definitely recommend it if you're not gonna be too worried about the double clicking. But if you wanna know which one's better, the Razer is just a better mouse overall. I think it looks better, it feels better, better quality, probably will last longer. It's got a much better cable. There's just everything the Razer does better. Again, if you want to check out either of these mice, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links below. I do got you guys. But if you want to check out my full review of the Razer Basilisk V3, it just came out probably like an hour ago. So definitely check it out somewhere here. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video and it helped you out, help me out and throw a like below. And if you enjoy other videos like this, or top 5 or top 10 tech videos, I do a ton of those, so please consider subscribing below. But this was Consumer Tech Review, and I'll see you guys in the next video.